All right, let's look at the homework 16.5, problem number 3. All right, so let's find the curl and the divergence. All right, so let's do that. All right, so let's find the curl. So curl of vector field F is going to be, all right, here's I vector J, and vector K, and partial with respect to X, and the partial with respect to y, and partial with respect to z. Right? And the first component is a 7 e to the x sine of y, and a 9 e to the x, actually y sine of z, and a 4 e to the z sine of x. Right, so this is going to be, right, so first component, hide the first column. So partial of this guy with respect to y. So you can see that it has nothing to do with y, so it's going to be 0, minus partial of this guy with respect to z. So 9 e to the y is just going to be a constant. And the derivative, partial derivative sine of z is cosine of z. Right, so we have that. All right, second component, so it's going to be negative. Right, so hide the second column. So partial derivative of this guy with respect to x is going to be, let's see, 4 e to the z is just a number. And derivative of sine of x would be a cosine of x, minus partial of this guy with respect to z. But you can see that it has nothing to do with z, so derivative is going to be 0. Right, so last component is derivative of this guy with respect to x. Actually, there's no x in there, so it's 0. Right, partial of this guy with respect to y. So 7 e to the x is just going to be constant, and the derivative sine of y would be cosine of y. Right? So you can see that if you clean it up, you're going to have a negative 9 e to the y cosine of z, and you have a negative 4 e to the z cosine of x, comma, negative 7 e to the x cosine of y. Right? So let's type it in. All right, so what we got was, all right, so first component is negative 9 e to the y cosine of z. Cosine of z, all right, comma, negative 4 e to the z, have a cosine of x. All right, last component is negative 7 e to the x cosine of y. All right, so let's check the answer. Submit for testing. All right, it came back and looks like we got this one correctly. All right, let's do part B. So we want to find the divergence. All right, so let's do that. All right, so the divergence of this vector field F is going to be, all right, so first we take the partial derivative of the first component with respect to x. All right, so you can see that 7 is a constant. Partial derivative of e to the x is e to the x, and then you have a sine of y just going to be a number, so I'll just put that there. All right, plus, all right, partial derivative of the second component with respect to y. So 9 is a constant, and the sine of z is a constant, but the partial derivative of e to the y is still e to the y. All right, and plus, all right, so 4 is a number, and the sine of x is also a constant, and the partial derivative of z with respect to z would be e to the z. All right, So we got that. All right, so then if you want, you can probably pull out, actually, these are e to the x and e to the y, e to the, as they are all different. Maybe I'll leave it as it is. All right, so let's type this guy in. All right, so what we got was 7 e to the x sine of y plus 9 e to the y sine of z plus 4 e to the z sine of x. All right, so let's check the answer. Submit for testing. All right, it came back and looks like we got this one correctly as well. All right, that's it. I hope that this was clear.